Bedman's 5P is a fairly standard jab, whiffing on most crouchers, and primarily used as a quick anti-air. 2P is his fastest button at 5 frames, making it mostly used for counterpoking on defense, but can be used to stuff approaching if needed. 5K is a bit unique since it's a kick with a disjointed hitbox. This makes it good for round start. It doesn't reach, but will contest far slashes and other common pokes, but loses to lows. 5K is a decent poke overall since it has a solid disjoint, and is quick with a lot of active frames, but 2K may be preferable due to the range. 2K is the fastest low poke at 6 frames, and always combos into 2D even at max range. Since it has great range and always combos, it's great to both approach and stuff approaches with, and it's very good after throw techs. Far Slash is a solid poke with good range. It being 11 frames makes it on the slightly slower side, but still good. It has a slight disjoint and gatlings into 2H, but at further ranges you'll need counter hit for it to combo. It gets a bit outshined by 2D since it doesn't combo into anything at max range, but is a little faster with lower recovery, so it is still worth using. It's best used over 2S and 2D when fighting characters that could crush lows, like with Ino's Hover Dash, Soul's Revolver, and so on. 2S is similar to Far Slash in that it's a good poke, but gets outshined by 2D. It does have a disjoint and is a long range low, but doesn't confirm as easily. It is good to be able to gatling into 2H to catch mashing and get block strings going. 5H is a very disjointed attack that is great for counterpoking and used for controlling space and fishing for counter hits. Unfortunately, it doesn't lead to anything on normal hit and not much more on counter hit, but still is a good deterrent in the mid-range. 2H is a slower but advancing multi-hitting low attack, hitting low 5 times and cancelable at any point. It kills a lot of time for errors, which we'll learn about in a few minutes, but it has no guaranteed safe cancel options, so it's risky to do without meter or an error loaded. Without an error, 2H is minus 15 on block, so you'll want to cancel into either 236P or 236H. 236H has a mashable gap, but is plus on block. This is preferred since you can cancel after any of the hits of 2H and be plus. Doing it earlier can leave you spaced enough to stop them from mashing. 236P frame traps mashing, but leaves you minus on block and on hit, and if you're close enough, it'll leave you punishable on hit too. 2D is Bedman's final low poke, reaching the same range as 2S, but gives a hard knockdown or a combo into 236S at any range. The downside to 2D over 2S and Far Slash is that 2D has no disjoint, making it a little less safe to use. At max range this is best due to the consistent return on hit, but when fighting other long range fighters, the disjoints of 2S or Far Slash may be more useful. 6P is huge with a good anti-cross-up hitbox, but it has more recovery to make up for the extra size, losing to air stalling easier. It should combo into 236S on any hit and 236H on counter hit, but does give a hard knockdown for good Oki on counter hit. Bedman has some of the slowest walk and dash speeds, being just a slow overall character. Also, he cannot double jump, instead has an 8-way air dash by pressing the same direction twice to start the air dash, then a third time to choose the direction, but I highly recommend using a dash macro so you can just do dash, then a direction. Opposite of how air dash characters typically are, he's very slow both on the ground and in the air. And with how good 6P is in this game, air dashes can be scary to use, though the slow speed may work in your favor, messing up their timings. During the moving portion of the air dash you can block, but the hover state before the air dash is vulnerable. You can stall before committing or just not commit at all to bait anti-airs. Air dash FD into lows or low hitting air normals is good. Air dash down forward JH doesn't come out, letting you go right into a low. FD break is safer since you can block on the way down, but is more execution heavy and gives a better visual indicator of what you're doing. All air normals are air dash cancelable in all directions. There is a minimum height that you can get into the hover state from, but super jumping makes it slightly faster to reach. This is mostly important for safe jump setups, but it's also good just to be faster overall. It can be good to just super jump hover into nothing occasionally to see how they react, potentially react with an air dash back JS if they try to run up air to air, go in if they do nothing, or just air dash straight down JS to set up a wall. JP is Bedman's fastest air button and is great for air to airs calling out jumps. You can do J236S on hit or block, or add in air dash down forward JS for a little more damage. Also, JP air to air blocked, then air dash down forward JH is hard and sometimes impossible to 6P. After air dash down forward, double overhead JP can be decent as well. JK is a good fast jumping button and can be used as a cross-up. IED FD JK is good to get out of the corner crossing up. It's fairly low commitment and tends to be able to link into 2K on hit. JS is an amazing air button, having long range and a good disjoint, and is fairly fast at 9 frames. The main strength is that it vacuums them in, making it great to start or continue combos, bring them in for pressure, or even set up mix-ups with JD. It's fairly easy to spam, avoids low pokes, some far slashes, has low recovery and high startup, making it basically the opposite of his grounded pokes. It's easy to control what range you want to be in by just air dashing in that direction, and also makes it hard to be 6P'd because of the disjoint. You'll be vulnerable to people dashing up and 6P'ing, or doing mid to high range pokes. That's when you use 2S and 2D. JH is a jump in that hits up to 6 times, making it very active while possibly hitting low enough to stuff 6Ps when done from a super jump into down forward air dash. You'll really want this to be the jump in if you can set it up, mostly from air dashing forward rather than down forward. Every hit of it is an overhead, making the opponent have to be aware of how high up you were when you started to connect with them, since they may not need to block all 6 possible overheads. At any point when they're blocking or getting hit, it can be cancelled into JD. Also, since it's multi-hitting, it kills time for errors. JD is a multi-purpose air button. It can be used to stall a bit, to bait and punish anti-airs, cancelling into special moves or jump on landing. But as mentioned before, it can be used for mix-ups like cancelling from JH right before landing, giving a delayed extra overhead. Be careful about doing it if you're not sure they'll block the first air normal, since you might just get 5D. You can also just jump cancel on block or hit and threaten JH to get away, but rising JK after is something that should be done pretty much every time. Also, using this with the vacuum effect of JS, it can be used to set up cross-ups. White Wild Assault, while nerfed, is still a solid option since it has strike invul from frames 9 to 22, and if held, all the way to frame 34. It is now -3 on block, but is a very large range strike invincible attack and becomes even better once you have errors stored up. It'll be useful against characters with big disjoints playing outside of your range, or characters that can contest your fireball zoning outside of the range like Axel or Johnny. It's also good for round start, but be careful of people neutral jumping trying to call it out. 236P, officially called Call 4BA, also referred to as Spike, Needle, or Pin, but I'll refer to it as Spike. It's a fairly standard fireball, but it does track within about a 45-degree angle above his arm, which is really nice. It can be low profiled like other projectiles by 6Ps or moves with built-in low profile, but the timing is strict. It's good to use this when they're outside of far slash range. It can be done in the air too, but leaves you vulnerable until you hit the ground, which can make this a little scary to use. The air version tracks about 45 degrees below his arm. The air version is very good against full screen set play characters like Jacko or Happy Chaos, or even against other traditional fireballs. Doing down air dash right after jumping and doing air spike can reduce recovery and makes them want to do jump-ins and IEDs more, starting to condition them. As with other fireballs, it is counter hit state through the whole duration. This is where we get introduced to his errors. After spike, an error is stored, this one called error 6EP, which after 3 seconds will automatically launch an electric bolt, which I'll refer to as shock. Realistically, you're only shooting the fireball to control space and set up the error. 214P, also called Call 20 cents, is to trigger the stored error immediately rather than waiting for the timer to run out. Looping spike into 214P over and over is a basic but effective way to start zoning. Manually setting off the shock also frame traps to keep you fairly safe from moves like 2H or 2D. This is where you'll force them to start making risky decisions before punishing them for it. They'll start dash blocking, abusing low profiles, or IED. Start reacting to them and take advantage of it. IEDs should get 5P'd, 6P'd, or JP'd. If you feel something is about to happen, then stop the pattern and be ready to react while waiting for the error to go off. Safely doing nothing, and if they also do nothing, then the shock will just come up by itself. It's low risk, medium reward. You can also do a move like 2S or 2D right before shock comes out, and if they do IED or dash into something, it will hit them while you cover the ground. Doing 214P in the air lets you air dash in or out after it if you want. Once the error is stored, it gives more freedom to approach and set up plus frames, though it will take some getting used to what you can and can't do with the time between the fireball and automatic follow-up. An example is dash jump, air dash down forward 2K2D when protected by the shock. Also, you can only store one error at a time, so doing spike into itself again resets the timer. 214K, or call $1, is used to reset the error attack back to 3 seconds. It's not that common since it's really easy to lose an error in the time you had to start with, since blocking or getting hit by anything makes it go away. But it can be used to air stall or reduce the recovery of slower moves, making them a little more safe. This will mostly be with moves like 2H, 2D, and 6H. 236S, officially called 4B3, but I'll call Beyblade, is a lariat that works both in the air and on the ground. It's used pretty often on hit, but it's -12 on block, so it shouldn't be thrown out carelessly. From the air version, you'll be in recovery until you hit the ground, so be careful about whiffing it in the air too. With RC, it can be decent as a neutral skip, but without anything to keep you safe, having almost a full second of total duration makes it pretty bad on whiff. But this move stores a different error, this time being a chain of explosions. This error mostly comes up after hits rather than in neutral, since you'll be running into Beyblade for combo enders rather than starting pressure. So it can be used in neutral if you get a hit and go back to neutral, but I'll go into more detail in the next videos. 236H or 4B9 Malfunction, which is typically just shortened to Malfunction, is the final special move he has. It's pretty slow, with the fastest it connects being 24 frames, but it is fairly disjointed, gives a good Oki on hit, and is +3 on block. It can be powered up by holding it for more time up to 75 frames, making it +19, but that isn't really going to be very useful in neutral. It's mostly used as an Oki tool and to set up plus frames and block strings, but it's good to at least get an overview of the special move now. The error that Malfunction gives is referred to as bomb since his head pops off and explodes, leaving you at a minimum of +48 while guard crushing. So if this error is stored in neutral and you time it right to true string or frame trap into this error, it'll be a fairly easy way to start pressure. The S super is an install. For 5 seconds he deals 10% more and takes 10% less damage. Error attacks are all buffed and unburstable on hit while immediately breaking the wall with a hard knockdown, and attacks won't go away once they get started if you get hit. The P error now tracks a full 360 degrees around you, is much faster, does more damage, and guard crushes. The S error does huge damage, great corner carry even if they blocked it. It pushes them very far, especially if they FD, and can force them into the corner. The H error bombs make his pressure even more crazy with huge explosions, making it hard to see, making it significantly larger, and having insane plus frames being +62 by default instead of +48. It also gives a hard knockdown on hit, and there's no difference in the error if you did normal or charged Malfunction. H super is mainly used as a wall break super, but is also the only invincible reversal he has. Something worth noting is that it's a projectile, so it can't be red RC'd, only P RC'd. Thank you for watching.